Welcome to this episode of the Harpreet Singh Show. I'm your host Harpreet Singh from Surrey, British Columbia, Canada. In today's program, we'll go over to London, and our guest today will be Minreet Kaur, a well-known journalist in UK. Let's learn from her about her journey of success and also what are the issues that South Asian people face in England. And she's basically been focusing on human interest stories, and she not only produces documentaries but also writes for newspapers also. सो आओ चलते हाँ लंदन ते गलबात का सिलसिला शुरू कर दें असी मनरीत कौर नाल. Manreet, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. It's a pleasure having you. So Manreet, from marketing to the media, it's been an interesting journey. I was going through through your CV, and it's really interesting. So if you could tell us a little bit about that, as to what prompted you to jump from the marketing industry to the media industry, and within a short span of time, you have made a name for yourself.
Thank you so much. So ਮੈਂ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਕੀਤਾ ਸੀਗਾ ਮਾਰਕੀਟਿੰਗ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਦੋਂ ਮੈਂ ਯੂਨੀਵਰਸਿਟੀ ਗਈ ਸੀਗੀ. I did a degree in multimedia technology and design. But all the bath after university, I decided to go into the corporate world. Started off as an administrator, and then from there went into marketing, and I did that for about 10 saal. And I realized that, I wasn't really getting anything from it. The rewards were for the company, but not for people. And I just felt that I wanted to do something to give back. So, for me, I had my own personal story. In that time, I'd gone through a divorce and always wanted to talk about that. And, in Saudi community, it's very hard to talk about divorce. 10 years ago, it was very hard to do that.
Gee.
So I decided that, my Sikh channel, do 3 saal utte presenting bhi kiti sigi. I had my own breakfast show. And it was then that the community said to me that, why are you just presenting on Sikh channel? Tinu Jada to go into mainstream. And or the bath fair in 2018, 2017, jado Christmas singer. I had decided that year I just had enough of the marketing world. There really wasn't any rewards. I wasn't enjoying it. I didn't really feel there was any kind of comeback for other people. The corporates are just about themselves and making the money. And so I decided, in that time in Christmas, I just reached out to the BBC directly off the website. And I said to them, look, I present the Sikh channel and medical community, these stories, you don't really cover them. And when you do cover them, you're always calling a gurdwara a mosque and you're not really getting it right. So can I help you in any way and bring you stories? Or the Bath Fair, they came back to me, they introduced me to the head of radio for religion. And he was actually a Gora, an elderly man who's been at the BBC for such a long time, but a really lovely person. I met with him. And it was then that he said to me at the meeting, he said, it's really good that, to Jondiya to help the BBC. We'd love to have your stories and contacts. And it was then that he said to me, Harpreet, what about you? What Jondiya karano, hana? You're presented, but what do you want to do? And I think that was it. That's when I thought, no one's ever asked me that. So then I said to him, I'd love to get a foot in the door in the BBC. And then he brought me in to do a couple of days in radio. And then from there, I just literally, we know as Sikhs, we don't give up. Kaur is there for a reason. Singh is there for a reason. We're that community that keep on going. So I just kept on going with Vaiguji Kirpa Bina.
Okay. But Manreet, being presented is something different. But to be in the front of the camera is something different, You don't have any training. Or did you get some formal training also? And usto baad tusi fir a jump kita. How was that journey?
No training at all. It was literally just training myself. I'm very much somebody who loves talking to people. I never really pretend to be somebody that I'm not. I'm not somebody who went to Oxford University or Cambridge University. I am just me. My parents have come from India. My dad's a farmer. We're very simple people. But the one thing that I can do, and probably do too much of it, is I love to talk. And so I never really run out of things to say. So I think for me, that was my training. That I just thought if you can talk, and you have a sense of humor and you have a personality and you can really be yourself, then anyone can really be a presenter, because then you're being you and you're not pretending to be someone else.
Absolutely. Whenever it is from the heart, it is absolutely genuine and you present yourself the way you are. But still, camera de agge aana aukha ho janda. Jis tarah kiha janda na ki jad tusi pedestal te jande ho, if you have to give a speech, your legs start shaking. Similarly, to talk is something different, but once you're in front of the camera, things get different. Were initially those moments you also faced when you had some issues, or again it was just that nature of yours which helped you and you just were easy in front of the camera also?
No, so when I first started at Seek Channel, I have to share this with you. It was so funny because although at that time it was live shows, and obviously you don't realize how the Indian channels work in comparison to the English channels. I only realized that when I went to the BBC. But when
Right.
I did my first live show for Seek Channel, oh my God, Harpreet, I have to tell you, this is so funny. And I have to share this with everybody because I have a picture and I should send that to you after this. We have a very small studio in Southall, and basically what happened was, first I was nervous anyway. That you can see yourself. There's a monitor in the studio, and you can see yourself. But the funniest thing was that one of the guests' mic came off, and the Harjeet uncle, who's the cameraman, came onto the set, and on the set you could see his bum. So while me and the presenter were there, you could see the back of him, and
Right.
oh my God,
And it's
that was
live.
when I really found it. And it's live. And the thing with
Right.
me, I have this problem where I laugh at anything. Like I find it really hard. If I can't control it. So at the end of my show, everyone was messaging me with pictures saying, what's going on here? We can see someone's bum on the TV. And it was really funny because that was my first live show. And, I was
Right.
already nervous, so it was hard. It was really, really hard. But you get there, eventually
Yeah,
get used to it.
absolutely. But that was the grounding what you got at the Sikh channel, and from there onwards, you had that confidence, and further you started going ahead. And of course, with BBC, you got a big break. But then again, when we talk about the South Asian media, because you have touched that aspect, I'd like to just touch a little bit about that. What is the status of South Asian media in England right now? Because right now, what we are seeing, like in Canada, also we are seeing mushroom growth of journalists, and even in India also that's the same thing because of the social media now. We find everybody is holding a camera in their hand, and they're becoming reporters. So what is the status right now in England as far as the South Asian media is concerned?
So I think that we are still very much behind. I think that there are a certain type of South Asians that they will be able to break through in mainstream. That's obviously changing. You have people like the BBC, ITV. They're all saying we want to be very diverse. But I agree with you that today you can just be a journalist yourself by taking your phone and recording videos and doing interviews and speaking to people. That is happening a lot more. A lot more people are writing, a lot more people are doing videos. But in terms of mainstream, I mean, I still think I've been 2 years into the industry and I still don't have my break. And I don't know if I will get that break in mainstream. So sometimes it's better off to do it independently. But there
Right.
are more people coming forward, definitely. It's more diverse. But we are very slow. I look at Canada and I think I wish I was in Canada right now because I'd probably do a lot more. I think you're brilliant. You're leading the way with so many South Asians and you are so diverse. I mean, I think it's just brilliant. Canada is
Right.
absolutely brilliant.
And when we another issue, of course, what we face all over, wherever the Sikh diaspora or the South Asian diaspora is, I would say, is the question of payments. That's another issue. The South Asian media, because it's dependent upon its own community, and when it comes to payments, many times we feel that it becomes difficult to pay also, and people want to get free work, and that is a major issue which we face all over. Nevertheless, it's time for a short break. Let's go for a break. Once we are back, we'll start and talk about your journey into the mainstream media, because now you're writing also for newspapers and your interest is in culture, communities, religion, human rights. So, what all you have done, and what is the kind of response you're getting back from the community? So, we'll be shortly back. Please keep on watching the Harpreet Singh Show, and after this, we'll continue with our discussion.
ਕੀ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸਰੀ, ਡੈਲਟਾ, ਰਿਚਮੰਡ, ਐਬਸਫੋਰਡ ਜਾਂ ਵੈਂਕੂਵਰ ਵਿੱਚ ਨਵਾਂ ਘਰ ਬਣਾਉਣ ਬਾਰੇ ਸੋਚ ਰਹੇ ਹੋ ਜਾਂ ਫਿਰ ਪੁਰਾਣੇ ਘਰ ਨੂੰ ਰੈਨੋਵੇਟ ਕਰਨਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਹੋ? ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਲੋੜ ਹੈ ਇੱਕ ਤਜਰਬੇਕਾਰ ਬਿਲਡਰ, ਇੱਕ ਕ੍ਰੀਏਟਿਵ ਇੰਟੀਰੀਅਰ ਡਿਜ਼ਾਈਨਰ ਦੀ ਜੋ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਸਹੀ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਗਾਈਡ ਕਰ ਸਕਣ ਤੇ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਸੁਪਨੇ ਦੇ ਘਰ ਨੂੰ ਉਸਾਰ ਸਕਣ। ਅੱਜ ਹੀ ਕਾਲ ਕਰੋ ਹਰਪ੍ਰੀਤ ਜਾਂ ਸੰਦੀਪ 6048259295 ਉੱਤੇ।
है जुल्म ढाने का अंदाज भी कितना हंसी, हमारी जान पर बनाई है जब जब उसने अंगड़ाई ली। कभी खामोश रहते हैं, कभी शोर होता है। मोहब्बत में शरारत का मजा कुछ और होता है। दिल को जज्बात का तोहफा, खामोशियों को बात का तोहफा, खूबसूरती में जड़ी नजाकत अदाओं की चांद से मुखड़े को चांद सा तोहफा।
भारत ज्वेलर्स, सच्चे प्यार की चमक जैसा। पायल बिजनेस सेंटर सरी।
ਛੋਟੇ ਘਰਾਂ ਤੋਂ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਵੱਡੇ ਪ੍ਰੋਜੈਕਟਸ ਤੱਕ ਬਾਹਰੋਂ ਸ਼ਿੰਗਾਰਨ ਲਈ ਮਸ਼ਹੂਰ ਹਨ ਜੇਰੇ ਸਟੋਨ ਕੰਪਨੀ ਵਾਲੇ। ਘਰ ਨੂੰ ਟ੍ਰੈਡੀਸ਼ਨਲ ਕੰਟੈਂਪਰੇਰੀ ਜਾਰਜੀਅਨ ਮਾਡਰਨ ਲੁੱਕ ਦੇਣੀ ਹੈ ਤਾਂ ਕਾਲ ਕਰੋ ਜੇਰੇ ਸਟੋਨ ਨੂੰ, ਜੋ ਆਪਣੇ ਕਾਬਲ ਸਟਾਫ ਨੂੰ ਭੇਜ ਕੇ ਫ੍ਰੀ ਐਸਟੀਮੇਟ ਦੇਣਗੇ। ਸਟੋਨ ਟਾਈਲਸ, ਅਰਬਨ ਸਟੋਨ, ਮੋਲਡਿੰਗਸ, ਐਕਸੈਸਰੀਜ਼, ਪਿਲਰਸ ਆਦਿ ਨੂੰ ਇੰਸਟਾਲ ਕਰਨ ਵਿੱਚ ਇਹ ਮਹਾਰਤ ਰੱਖਦੇ ਹਨ। 25 ਸਾਲ ਦੀ ਵਾਰੰਟੀ, ਮੇਨਟੇਨੈਂਸ ਫ੍ਰੀ, ਗਵਰਨਮੈਂਟ ਅਪਰੂਵਡ ਟਾਈਲਸ ਦੀ ਵਰਤੋਂ ਕਰਕੇ ਜ਼ਰੂਰ ਵੇਖੋ। कॉल करो 604-614-9231 या फिर विजिट करो यूनिट नंबर 500 1515 ब्रॉडवे स्ट्रीट, पोर्ट कुकिटलम। ਸਵਾਗਤ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਜੀ ਇੱਕ ਵਾਰ ਫਿਰ ਆਪ ਸਭ ਦਾ ਅੱਜ ਦੇ ਇਸ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਵਿੱਚ। ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਤੱਕ ਪਹੁੰਚਾਇਆ ਜਾ ਰਿਹਾ ਅਗਨੀਹੋਤਰੀ ਇਮੀਗ੍ਰੇਸ਼ਨ ਕੰਸਲਟਿੰਗ ਦੇ ਸਹਿਯੋਗ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ। ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਆਉਣਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਹੋ, ਟੈਂਪਰੇਰੀ ਸਟੇਟਸ PR, ਨਵੇਂ ਹੋ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਵਿੱਚ, ਅੰਤਰਰਾਸ਼ਟਰੀ ਵਿਦਿਆਰਥੀ ਹੋ, ਸਿਟੀਜ਼ਨਸ਼ਿਪ ਬਾਰੇ ਜਾਣਕਾਰੀ ਲੈਣੀ ਹੈ, ਹਾਇਰ ਕਰਨੇ ਫੋਰਨ ਵਰਕਰਸ, ਐਕਸਪ੍ਰੈਸ ਐਂਟਰੀ ਜਾਂ ਸਪਾਂਸਰ ਕਰਨੇ ਪੇਰੈਂਟਸ ਜਾਂ ਗ੍ਰੈਂਡ ਪੇਰੈਂਟਸ, ਤਾਂ ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਮਦਦ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਨੇ ਨੀਰਾ ਅਗਨੀਹੋਤਰੀ, ਜਿਹੜੇ ਕਿ 2006 ਤੋਂ ਸਰਟੀਫਾਈਡ ਇਮੀਗ੍ਰੇਸ਼ਨ ਕੰਸਲਟੈਂਟ ਵਜੋਂ ਕੰਮ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ। ਹੋਰ ਜਾਣਕਾਰੀ ਲਈ ਕਾਲ ਕਰੋ 604-597-2284। She'll give you honest and reliable information. This is what she says. 604-597-2284. ਸਾਡੇ ਅਗਲੇ ਸਹਿਯੋਗੀ ਹਨ ਬੈਸਟ ਹੋਮ ਕਿਚਨ ਕੈਬਨਿਟਸ। ਘਰ ਦੀ ਸ਼ਾਨ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਹੈ ਕਿਚਨ ਤੇ ਇਸ ਨੂੰ ਸੋਹਣਾ ਬਣਾਉਣ ਵਿੱਚ ਬੈਸਟ ਹੋਮ ਕਿਚਨ ਕੈਬਨਿਟਸ ਲੋਅਰ ਮੇਨਲੈਂਡ ਵਿੱਚ ਇੱਕ ਜਾਣੀ ਪਛਾਣੀ ਕੰਪਨੀ ਹਨ। ਕਸਟਮ ਹਾਈ ਐਂਡ ਘਰਾਂ ਤੋਂ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਮਲਟੀ ਯੂਨਿਟ ਪ੍ਰੋਜੈਕਟਸ ਇਹ ਕਰਦੇ ਨੇ। ਹਰ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਦਾ ਸਪੈਸ਼ਲ ਕੈਬਨਿਟ ਦਾ ਕੰਮ ਕਰਾਉਣ ਲਈ ਬੈਸਟ ਹੋਮ ਕਿਚਨ ਕੈਬਨਿਟਸ ਨੂੰ ਯਾਦ ਰੱਖੋ। ਕਾਲ ਕਰੋ ਸੁਰਜੀਤ ਤੇਸੀ 604-591-8171 604-591-8171। ਅੱਜ ਸਾਡੇ ਮਹਿਮਾਨ ਨੇ ਮਨਰੀਤ ਕੌਰ, ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਕਿ ਮਾਰਕੀਟਿੰਗ ਤੋਂ ਮੀਡੀਆ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਆ ਕੇ ਬਹੁਤ ਛੋਟੇ ਸਮੇਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਬਹੁਤ ਨਾਮ ਖੱਟਿਆ ਹੈ, ਜਰਨਲਿਸਟ, ਬ੍ਰੌਡਕਾਸਟਰ ਐਜ਼ ਵੈਲ ਐਜ਼ ਅ ਪ੍ਰੋਡਿਊਸਰ। ਸੋ ਇਸ ਤੋਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਕਿ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਵਾਪਸ ਅਸੀਂ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਕੁਝ ਜੋ ਇਹ ਕੰਮ ਕਰਦੇ ਨੇ, ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਕੀ ਅੰਦਾਜ਼ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਹੈ ਟੈਲੀਵਿਜ਼ਨ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ, ਜੋ ਕੁਝ ਇਹ ਕਰਦੇ ਨੇ, ਆਓ ਕੁਝ ਝਲਕੀਆਂ ਉਸ ਦੀਆਂ ਦੇਖਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ, ਤੇ ਉਸ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਮਨਰੀਤ ਨਾਲ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਦਾ ਸਿਲਸਿਲਾ ਅੱਗੇ ਤੋਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ।
Celebrating 550 years since the birth of Guru Nanak Dev Ji.
550 years, that's a huge landmark. How have Sikhs been celebrating?
So where do I start, actually?
When I tell guys that I'm divorced, they lose interest. How would you feel if one of your children married a divorcee?
Feel sad
Why? Why would you feel sad?
because his life is ruined, innit?
So there's nothing written in the Sikh scripture. So why do divorced people feel judged?
This is something that has come from the South Asian culture.
What can religious leaders like yourself do more to be able to remove that stigma? Because I feel it.
Well, Minreet Kaur made the film, and as you can see, she's here now. Thanks for coming in, Min. So this was similar to your own experience, wasn't it?
It was indeed. You know, that thought of when you were looking to leave that marriage and that you're going to have this big label, the D word, of damaged goods and being divorced, I had that.
If there was one bit of news throughout the whole of this that lightened the load, it was Captain Tom Moore's humble march. It shone a light on so many different people doing their bit to make a difference. So I'm on a little road trip across London to meet some of these people, just to say thank you, really. Gabriel walks up to 30 laps of his garden every single day. You know, I just can't get over it. What an inspiration. I hope I'm as fit as that at 100. Why is charity important to you?
Love and kindness and giving is at the heart of Judaism.
This is my 73-year-old dad, Rajinder, who's raised thousands of pounds for NHS charities by skipping. So the idea for the Skipping Sikh was born. Look at you just going for it. I can't even do 5.
Does he wake you up at 3 o'clock in the morning?
No, this is the thing. He tries to be really quiet in the house because he doesn't want to wake anybody up. And he never ever tells anyone that he gets up that early in the morning. He doesn't like to tell anyone. It's me who's been the driver to say, get out there, motivate and inspire everyone, because we need positive stories and we definitely need smiles on our faces at this time. The new Mr. Motivator, I think, the Sikh thing.
The problem for Anita is that she is a Sikh and the man she wants to marry is not.
Why did you decide to no longer allow interfaith marriage in the Gurdwaras?
The Sikh wedding ceremony is always conducted between two Sikhs.
So if it's always been disallowed, then why has it been going on for decades and decades before?
But the people I spoke to outside one of the UK's biggest Gurdwaras in West London were divided on the matter. Do you think the Gurdwara should accept interfaith marriages?
Yes, I do. I don't believe in segregation.
I think the protests are happening now because it's happening more commonly now.
In the middle of that debate is Anita, still planning a wedding outfit for a ceremony that looks unlikely to happen.
It's not just Anita and Kabir who have found themselves in this situation. It's something that I've come across on many occasions.
London's Olympia and Europe's largest Asian wedding show is in full swing.
Asians splash roughly twice as much cash on weddings than average.
About 130,000 pounds.
What?
But it's not as if we are...
I want to ask, and I hope I don't get thrown out for this, are we losing the plot when tying the knot?
Male workers were often forbidden from having beards or long hair, and you had to conform if you wanted to keep your job.
This was also a time when thousands of Sikhs came to the UK to help fill labour shortages.
One man, Darsim Singh Sandhu, decided to make a stand against the bus bosses.
When was it that you first realised that you had to cut your hair to find work?
Soon I came to England in 1962, there was hardly any person wearing turban. It is very, very hurtful at the time. Day before his threat was going, it was announced that people can wear turban.
Wow, so that was the turning point then,
Yes.
at that point.
Yeah.
Just how seeing you, that's exactly how it's touched so many other people's lives. So you know what, can I just say, on behalf of the channel, it's amazing what you've done. So Auntie Ji, the Sikh, for what reason today are we here?
This Gurdwara, a Sikh place of worship, is starting the new year by being one of the first to go plastic free.
And what about your drinks? Are they served in plastic cups?
They used to be served in plastic cups, but now they're served in glasses.
Stories like that certainly give me a skip in my...
Wonderful. So what we see is you're going out of the box, Minreet, and you're talking about issues which generally are not discussed in the South Asian community, and you're trying to bring it at the mainstream level. So whether it is a question of divorce or domestic violence or interfaith marriages. So what is it that makes you do all this? What inspires you to bring these kind of stories?
I think the thing that inspires me the most is, as I said, I had gone through a divorce and I had no one to talk to. I was judged by the community. There was a huge shame and stigma. So I think from that, I'd kept silent for 10 years. And when I shared that story and I realized how many people had wanted to talk about it, made me realize there is so much more work to be done. And that's when it led for me to talk about things like I've done a piece on dementia and the shame and stigma around dementia. I've done domestic violence. So these are the things that I think, look, as a community, it happens in every community. But the story that someone from your own community can tell, only we can tell that because we understand. We also understand what the issues are. So I just felt that I wanted to give a voice to the voiceless because I was voiceless for very long. And my parents, were very much shunned because of the fact that their daughter came home. Nobody looked at the situation that I was in a bad marriage. It was more a case of, well, why did you take her home, take her back home? So I just feel that we need to, and as women, come on, we know that in our community, we don't really see many women at the forefront, So I think for me, I want to be able to give a voice to women, especially. I want them to know that, we can be brave, we can be bold, we can talk about things in a very positive way. We're not putting the community down, but there are things to discuss and we should discuss them.
Absolutely, but still that stigma, that taboo, that is still prevalent in the community. So how are these things being taken in the South Asian community and especially in the Sikh community when you bring forward these issues? How are you looked upon?
So when I shared my story around divorce, I did get some backlash from that simply because of the fact that the title said Sikh men don't want me because I'm divorced. And people started taking it personally as if I'm bringing the Sikh religion into it, but you're not. Actually, if we look at it as Sikh women or Sikh men, you are looking for somebody from the Sikh community. So I think it was just basically we had 5% of people who, majority were men really, that had an issue with it, that said, oh, you shouldn't have really brought that into it. But the thing is, I disagree because it wasn't about our faith. Our faith is all about completely the opposite of the way the community are. Our faith is about love, oneness, compassion. So it was perceived not in a good way by some people, but actually it was more positive than negative. And I still get that. I did a piece on domestic violence and it was around, cases in the Sikh community. But again, we need to mention that we are Sikh because we go as Sikh. No one really calls themselves Punjabi, or they do call themselves Punjabi if it's a positive story. But why should we only stick to that? Well, we're Sikh at the end of the day. Right. And if these things are happening in the Sikh community, then we're talking about it. It's not bringing religion into it. You are actually classing yourself as a Sikh, which is what, everybody says is make sure that you fill out the census form so that we tick the box of Sikh. So there is that negativity. But the way I look at it, you're always going to get people that are going to say something. Even if you do a really good job, you're still going to get that one or two people or more who are going to criticize it. For me, I know my purpose. My purpose is to be able to highlight these issues, raise awareness and help people. So I'm going to continue to do that. And I'm not going to look at the negativity. I'm going to rise above it.
That's really commendable. It's time for a break. Let's go for a break. We'll be back and henceforth we'll continue with the discussion as to the issues that you're bringing forward. And especially the pandemic, what we have seen and heard, especially as far as domestic violence is concerned, the cases have doubled during this period, and especially in UK, the report which came, and I think you wrote that. So we'll touch a little bit about that and what are your future plans and how you plan to bring further and what are you working on. We'll talk on all these issues after this short break.
ਭਾਰਤ ਪੈਸੇ ਭੇਜਣੇ ਹੋਣ ਜਾਂ ਫਿਰ ਮੰਗਵਾਣੇ ਹੋਣ ਤੇ ਯਾਦ ਰੱਖੋ ਪੰਜਾਬ ਫੋਰੈਕਸ ਨੂੰ ਤਸੱਲੀਬਖਸ਼ ਸੇਵਾਵਾਂ ਅਤੇ ਵਧੀਆ ਰੇਟ ਦੇਣ ਦੀ ਇਹ ਗਾਰੰਟੀ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਨ। ਅੱਜ ਹੀ ਕਾਲ ਕਰੋ 6043491313 ਉੱਤੇ।
ਲੈਣਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਹੋ ਨਵੇਂ ਤੇ ਵਧੀਆ ਅਪਲਾਈਐਂਸਸ ਜਿਵੇਂ ਕਿ ਸਟੋਵ, ਅਵਨ, ਫ੍ਰਿਜ, ਵਾਸ਼ਰ ਡਰਾਇਰ, ਮਾਈਕ੍ਰੋਵੇਵ, ਫ੍ਰੀਜ਼ਰਸ ਜਾਂ ਡਿਸ਼ਵਾਸ਼ਰ ਤਾਂ ਫਿਰ ਪਹੁੰਚੋ ਪ੍ਰੀਮੀਅਮ ਅਪਲਾਈਐਂਸਸ ਤੇ। ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੀਆਂ 3 ਬ੍ਰਾਂਚੇਸ ਸਰੀ, ਐਬਟਸਫੋਰਡ ਤੇ ਚਿਲਵੈਕ ਵਿੱਚ ਹਨ। ਇੱਥੇ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਵਾਜਬ ਕੀਮਤਾਂ ਤੇ ਅਪਲਾਈਐਂਸਸ ਮਿਲਣਗੇ। ਇਹ ਡਿਲੀਵਰੀ ਤੇ ਇੰਸਟਾਲੇਸ਼ਨ ਵੀ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਨ। ਸਪੈਸ਼ਲ ਪੈਕੇजेस ਫॉर ਬਿਲਡਰਸ ਐਂਡ ਹੋਮ ਓਨਰਸ। ਕਾਲ 6045904140 604 590 4140।
ਕੁਦਰਤ ਦੇ ਸੌਮਿਆਂ ਦੀ ਵਰਤੋਂ ਆਯੁਰਵੇਦਾ ਰਾਹੀਂ 5000 ਸਾਲਾਂ ਤੋਂ ਚੱਲਦੀ ਆ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ ਤੇ ਹੁਣ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਵਿੱਚ ਹੀ ਬਣਾਏ ਗਏ ਹੈਲਥ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਅਪਰੂਵਡ 100% ਸ਼ੁੱਧ ਆਯੁਰਵੈਦਿਕ ਡਾਇਟਰੀ ਸਪਲੀਮੈਂਟਸ ਦਾ ਲਾਭ ਲੈ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ। ਸਟ੍ਰੈਸ, ਐਂਗਜ਼ਾਇਟੀ, ਇਨਸੋਮਨੀਆ, ਬਲੱਡ ਸ਼ੂਗਰ, ਕਿਡਨੀ, ਬਲੈਡਰ, ਹਾਜ਼ਮਾ, ਆਈਸਾਈਟ ਜਾਂ ਕਿਸੇ ਵੀ ਕਿਸਮ ਦੀ ਬਿਮਾਰੀ ਦਾ ਆਰਗੈਨਿਕ ਇਲਾਜ, ਜੋੜਾਂ ਦੀਆਂ ਦਰਦਾਂ ਤੇ ਸਰੀਰਕ ਮਸਾਜ ਲਈ ਕਈ ਕਿਸਮ ਦੇ ਆਯੁਰਵੈਦਿਕ ਤੇਲ ਵੀ ਉਪਲਬਧ ਹਨ। ਹੋਲਸੇਲ ਕੀਮਤਾਂ ਲਈ ਕਾਲ 604 628 2003।
Once again, welcome back to the program. Today's program is being brought to you with the support of Day-to-Day Wholesale Cash and Carry. British Columbia ਦਾ ਸਭ ਤੋਂ ਵੱਡਾ ਸਾਊਥ ਏਸ਼ੀਅਨ ਗਰੋਸਰੀ ਸਟੋਰ ਹੈ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਗਰੋਸਰੀਜ਼, ਪਾਰਟੀ ਵੇਅਰ, ਕਿਚਨ ਵੇਅਰ, ਹੋਮ ਵੇਅਰ, ਪੂਜਾ ਦਾ ਸਮਾਨ ਹੋਲਸੇਲ ਕੀਮਤਾਂ ਤੇ ਖਰੀਦ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ। 5000 ਤੋਂ ਵੱਧ ਪ੍ਰੋਡਕਟ ਸ਼ੈਲਫਸ ਤੇ ਡਿਸਪਲੇਡ ਹਨ ਤੇ ਇੰਡੀਆ, ਪਾਕਿਸਤਾਨ, ਸ਼੍ਰੀਲੰਕਾ, ਬੰਗਲਾਦੇਸ਼ ਦੀ ਗਰੋਸਰੀ ਇੱਥੋਂ ਮਿਲ ਸਕਦੀ ਹੈ। For best prices, unique grocery buying experience and high quality products, come to 7843 128th Street, Surrey. Phone number is 604 503 8787 604 503 8787। ਸਾਡੇ ਅਗਲੇ ਸਹਿਯੋਗੀ ਹਨ AMC ਇੰਸ਼ੋਰੈਂਸ। ਹੋਮ, ਆਟੋ, ਟਰੈਵਲ, ਬਿਜ਼ਨਸ, ਲਾਈਫ ਜਾਂ ਰਿਕ੍ਰੀਏਸ਼ਨਲ ਇੰਸ਼ੋਰੈਂਸ ਲੈਣ ਦੀ ਸੋਚ ਰਹੇ ਹੋ ਤਾਂ ਫਿਰ ਪਹੁੰਚੋ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੀਆਂ 9 ਬ੍ਰਾਂਚੇਸ ਜੋ ਲੋਅਰ ਮੇਨਲੈਂਡ ਵਿੱਚ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਸਰਵ ਕਰਦੀਆਂ ਨੇ। ਹਫਤੇ ਦੇ 7 ਦਿਨ ਸਵੇਰੇ 8:30 ਤੋਂ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਰਾਤ ਦੇ 9 ਵਜੇ ਤੱਕ ਇਹ ਖੁੱਲ੍ਹੇ ਰਹਿੰਦੇ ਨੇ। ਹੋਰ ਜਾਣਕਾਰੀ ਲਈ ਕਾਲ ਕਰੋ 604 507 6666 604 507 6666। Our guest today is Minreet Kaur, a well-known journalist in England, and we are talking to her about her accomplishments and also the type of work that she is doing, and she's trying to bring forth those issues which generally are not touched and people do not want to talk about. So Minreet, before the break, as you mentioned the issues, and we saw also those documentaries or those stories what you brought forward, so the backlash from the community, but during the pandemic, during the past 1 year, what have you been doing, and especially the report which you brought out about the increase in domestic violence cases has doubled in the South Asian community? That's a matter of concern. So you continue to bring out these issues, and of course the mainstream gives you the pedestal to bring it forward. Has some initiative from the government side or from the community side also been taken to address these issues?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think that's the thing. It was this story around domestic violence came from the fact of the government had said domestic violence is on the rise. So there was a report that came out, and the organisation that I worked with on this, उन्होंने भी कहा सका that साडे cases ਜਿਹੜੇ ਹੈਗੇ ਆ double ਹੋ ਗਏ. You know, we're getting lots of phone calls. ਸਾਡੀ community ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ women ਜਿਹੜੇ ਆਏ ਆ, for example, from India, some of them, you know, they don't really speak English. ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਜਾਣਾ ਨਹੀਂ to a charity or an organisation that doesn't understand them, you know. So this organisation, it specialises in cases from the Sikh community simply for that reason, because I think domestic violence in a way, I mean, it's everywhere, but I think in our community we are beginning to see that, you know, there are cases where, you know, women are obviously treated not right. You know, it's obviously, you know, for a number of reasons, you know, that I think that is growing, definitely. You know, I myself, you know when I was married, and that was over 10 years ago, you know, so I think there's a lot of people that I speak to that have suffered domestic violence, and and I understand it's every community, but I think it's harder in the South Asian community because of the mentality of some men, you know, and that's not everyone. So this was the reason why I wanted to bring this story forward, was because this woman's case and the lady that I spoke to, I actually personally interviewed her, and you know, it was a very, very difficult interview for me. It was very hard for me to interview her and, you know, to see what she had gone through. So there was no way I could sit back, you know, I had to take that forward, and I pushed for it. And, you know, that story, in fact, Harpreet, I didn't get paid for that. That's the other thing people don't realise, is a lot of my articles for the BBC are unpaid. I don't do this because it's a job for me. I do it because I really want to help people. And obviously there's work. Yeah, that's it. And I want to be able to help. So that wasn't paid. I had to push for that article. And in the end, you know, we got it out.
Right. Well, these are the issues which I would like to talk to you in detail. Of course, I'd like to do a separate program with you on this particular issue. But coming back to your journalism career now, what are your further plans? Freelance journalism, it's great. But the way things are changing very fast, traditional journalism is on the wane. Social media is taking over. So what are your plans and how are you trying to cope up with what's in store for you?
A really good question, because I'm currently thinking to myself, I should start something like you have. I should start the MK TV show. So I should actually start my own show online because, you're right. Journalism is changing, TV is changing, and it's more social media, it's more online. I think that's what I'm probably going to do is do a lot more and build my own YouTube channel and be able to try and do more because I love talking to people, and I think for me, I need to be able to highlight more stories and raise awareness. There are so many stories out there. So I think going forward, I'll be able to do my own channel and have the people that I'd like to interview without having to worry about an organization commissioning me, go off and do it myself and, be able to reach out to women internationally. That's what I would love to do, is be able to give a voice to the voiceless.
Right, and absolutely, that's the future. And I started my journalism career in '92. I worked for the print. I worked at the radio station also. And the pandemic was a blessing in disguise for me because I was having a regular television program every day. But because of the pandemic, the studio got closed and I started off with this program. And now all over the world, we are reaching out to people and bringing out those stories which need to be talked about. Because in the community, many times dementia, social issues are just buried. And these need to be brought because until unless there's a more awareness and people get involved, we will not be able to tackle these issues. But again, when it comes to these stigmas, what we are talking about, what is it in UK that you are seeing? Is there any change in the younger generation, or still that mentality, what you're talking about, still percolates down from the family to the younger generation also?
I definitely think there is change. I do think that the younger generation are very much making up their own minds. I don't really hear much about caste now as much in marriages. I think the younger generation are so much more clued up, but also just so much more independent. And I think that there is still that, some part of the community where it filters down from the parents. But no, there definitely changes on its way. It's already happening. And I think, even with men, I think, some of the men in the younger generation, I just think, they're just brilliant. They're just so respectful. They've supported me in my work and they see the bigger picture. So I think, definitely, change is coming and it's happening right now, and it's brilliant. Right. And I hope that continues.
Well, of course, with journalists like you, if you keep on bringing up such issues, definitely that will have a dent in the community also. So you have been, awarded many awards. I won't go in details of that. But of all the career work, what you have done, what are you most proud of, Minreet, that you feel that you were able to, that passion of yours of being in front of the camera, being with the people, talking to them, and you were able to bring that issue further and something happened on that?
So I have to say, my father's report, the skipping Sikh, I mean, that just goes without saying. It was my idea. He skipped at the allotment. I pushed for that story to go everywhere, even though I was rejected by many mainstream outlets. But it was that, a 73-year-old man who's a Sikh with his, dastard, with his beard. He's an Amritari. You can see his Gurban. I mean, come on, that is just amazing. He made worldwide news. We won Report of the Year. He's featured in a book, and the story continues. So I think for me, it's my father. They say, your blessings come from your parents. Your parents are everything. To actually win Report of the Year for an idea that was just not even planned, and my dad was that person in that report. It was the best thing ever because it was just, my father's never wanted to be in the media. That's what makes me laugh. I love it. He doesn't, and yet he made it. So it was just, the best report I think ever. It's so positive and so good for the Sikh community.
Absolutely. What would be your message to those aspiring journalists, youngsters who want to come into this field? It's not that easy. It's very competitive. There are lots of challenges. But what, from your wisdom, which you have learned from all these years of being a journalist, what would be your message to them towards the end?
My message to them is, we have our phones now and we can go out and make those stories we want ourselves. Don't wait for somebody to give you a job. Don't wait for someone to give you an opportunity. Make those opportunities yourself. Go out and speak to people that you want to speak to, that inspire you, that you feel other people are interested in, and keep on going and make your content. And alongside, try to have a job that pays, at least pays you your bills, and then keep pursuing that journalism, keep pushing forward. Contact organizations. If there's something you want to write about, write that pitch, find editors, get them to commission you, contact journalists, but keep going. I didn't, I tried to get into the industry 20 years ago, and from the rejections, I gave up. You know, we don't do that. I mean, just as a Sikh, we do not give up, but I did. So I let myself down, and now I'm back. You know, I'm 40 years old. I came into the industry at 38. I'm not going to give up. I'm going to actually show the industry that you say you want diversity, but you don't do diversity. But actually, I'm going to push forward and bring that diversity, because our voices matter. We matter. You know, we're just as much, entitled to be on TV, on radio, in print. So just keep on going and never take rejection as a way to give up, because you know what? Rejection just makes you learn and makes you be a better person and makes you move forward onto something bigger and better, because there is something bigger and better out there for you. And I'm still trying to find that, you know, but I'm going to keep on going.
Great. It was a pleasure talking to you, Minreet. Congratulations and best wishes for your future endeavors. And we'll keep in touch. Thank you very much once again.
Thank you so much, Harpreet. I really appreciate it. God bless you. Keep up the great work.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye. ਇਹ ਸਨ ਸਾਡੇ ਅੱਜ ਦੇ ਮਹਿਮਾਨ ਮਨਰੀਤ ਕੌਰ, ਜਿਹੜੇ ਕਿ ਇੱਕ ਜਰਨਲਿਸਟ ਹੈਗੇ ਨੇ ਇੰਗਲੈਂਡ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ। ਜਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਆਪਣੀ ਕਹਾਣੀ ਦੱਸੀ, ਇਹ ਉਹ ਮੁੱਦਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਅੱਗੇ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਆ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਕਿ ਵਾਕਿਆ 'ਚ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਅੱਗੇ ਲਿਆਉਣ ਦੀ ਜ਼ਰੂਰਤ ਹੈਗੀ ਹੈ। ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਜਦ ਤੱਕ ਅਸੀਂ ਕਿਸੇ ਇਸ਼ੂ ਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਡਿਸਕਸ਼ਨ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ ਤਾਂ ਸੋਲਿਊਸ਼ਨ ਕਿੱਥੋਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਲੱਭਾਂਗੇ। ਸੋ ਆਮ ਤੌਰ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਹਰ ਚੀਜ਼ ਨੂੰ ਦਬਾਉਣ ਦੀ ਕੋਸ਼ਿਸ਼ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਹਾਂ। ਜਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਫੋਰ ਐਗਜ਼ਾਮਪਲ ਇੱਥੇ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਸਾਡੀ ਵੱਡੀ ਪ੍ਰੋਬਲਮ ਹੈਗੀ ਡਰੱਗਸ ਦੀ। ਸਾਡੀ ਨੌਜਵਾਨ ਪੀੜ੍ਹੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਇਸ ਪਾਸੇ ਨੂੰ ਜਾ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ, ਜਦ ਤੱਕ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਇਸ਼ੂਜ਼ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰਦੇ ਤਦ ਤੱਕ, ਜਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਮੈਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਵੀ ਕਿਹਾ, ਸੋਲਿਊਸ਼ਨ ਲੱਭਣੇ ਬੜੇ ਔਖੇ ਨੇ। ਸੋ ਸਾਡਾ ਫਰਜ਼ ਬਣਦਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਅਸੀਂ ਇਹੋ ਜਿਹੇ ਜਰਨਲਿਸਟ ਨੂੰ ਜ਼ਰੂਰ ਸਪੋਰਟ ਕਰੀਏ ਤਾਂ ਕਿ ਉਹ ਹੋਰ ਚੰਗਾ ਕੰਮ ਕਰਕੇ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਦਾ ਨਾਮ ਅੱਗੇ ਰੋਸ਼ਨ ਕਰ ਸਕਣ। ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਦੀ ਕਰਦੇ ਇੱਥੇ ਹੀ ਸਮਾਪਤੀ। ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਮੇਰਾ ਸਾਥ ਹੋਇਆ ਕਰਦਾ ਹੈ ਮੰਡੇ ਟੂ ਫਰਾਈਡੇ ਸ਼ਾਮ ਦੇ 7 ਵਜੇ ਪੈਸੀਫਿਕ ਸਟੈਂਡਰਡ ਟਾਈਮ ਦੇ ਮੁਤਾਬਿਕ। ਇਫ ਯੂ ਆਲਸੋ ਵਾਂਟ ਟੂ ਬੀ ਅ ਪਾਰਟ ਆਫ ਦਿਸ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ, ਯੂ ਕੈਨ ਕੰਟੈਕਟ ਮੀ ਐਟ 6046037555 or you can email me at harpreetsingh@gmail.com। ਨਾਲ ਹੀ ਇੱਥੇ ਹੀ ਲੈਣਾ ਆ ਗਿਆ, ਫਿਰ ਮੁਲਾਕਾਤ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ। ਹੈਵ ਅ ਸੇਫ ਈਵਨਿੰਗ, ਸਟੇ ਹੈਲਦੀ ਐਂਡ ਇੰਜੋਏ ਯੋਰਸੈਲਫ। ਸ਼ਾਈਨ ਫੈਮਿਲੀ ਡੈਂਟਲ ਕਲੀਨਿਕ ਡਾਕਟਰ ਸਤਪ੍ਰੀਤ ਸਿੰਘ ਦੀ ਦੇਖ-ਰੇਖ ਹੇਠ ਆਧੁਨਿਕ ਮਸ਼ੀਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਵਰਤੋਂ ਨਾਲ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਦੰਦਾਂ ਦੀ ਸਹੀ ਕੇਅਰ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਨ। ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਸੇਵਾਵਾਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਦੰਦਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਸਾਫ਼ ਕਰਨਾ, ਕਰਾਊਨਸ, ਬ੍ਰਿਜਸ, ਡੈਂਟਲ ਇੰਪਲਾਂਟਸ, ਰੂਟ ਕਨਾਲ, ਡੈਂਚਰਸ, ਬੌਂਡਿੰਗ ਅਤੇ ਵਨੀਰਸ, ਐਕਸਟ੍ਰੈਕਸ਼ਨਸ, ਬੋਨ ਗ੍ਰੈਫਟਿੰਗ ਆਦਿ ਸ਼ਾਮਲ ਹਨ। ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਦੀ ਡੈਂਟਿਸਟਰੀ ਦੇ ਵੀ ਮਾਹਰ ਹਨ। ਇਹ ਇੰਸ਼ੋਰੈਂਸ ਕੰਪਨੀਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਡਾਇਰੈਕਟਲੀ ਬਿੱਲ ਭੇਜਦੇ ਹਨ ਤੇ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਘੱਟ ਤੋਂ ਘੱਟ ਚਾਰਜ ਕਰਨ ਦਾ ਵਾਅਦਾ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਨ। ਫॉर ਸਪੈਸ਼ਲ ਸ਼ਾਈਨ ਐਂਡ ਸਮਾਈਲ 604 503 0320 ਤੇ ਕਾਲ ਕਰੋ। ਕਿੰਗ ਜਾਰਜ ਸੁਪਰ ਸਟੋਰ ਦੇ ਕੋਲ, ਯੂਨਿਟ 370, 7488 ਕਿੰਗ ਜਾਰਜ ਬੁਲੇਵਾਰਡ, ਸਰੀ।
ਘਰ ਇੱਕ ਐਸੀ ਥਾਂ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਹੈ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਹਰ ਕੋਈ ਆਪਣੀ ਨਿੱਜੀ ਜ਼ਿੰਦਗੀ ਦੇ ਸੁਨਹਿਰੀ ਪਲ ਯਾਦ ਰੱਖਦਾ ਹੈ। ਉਹ ਜਗ੍ਹਾ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਉਹ ਰਹਿੰਦਾ ਹੈ ਤੇ ਪਿਆਰ ਭਰਿਆ ਜੀਵਨ ਬਤੀਤ ਕਰਦਾ ਹੈ। ਇਹ ਗੱਲਾਂ ਤਾਂ ਹੀ ਪੂਰੀਆਂ ਹੁੰਦੀਆਂ ਨੇ ਜਦ ਕਿਸੇ ਜਗ੍ਹਾ ਨੂੰ ਸਜੇ ਹੋਏ ਘਰ 'ਚ ਬਦਲਿਆ ਜਾਵੇ। ਨਵੇਂ ਘਰਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਫਰੇਮਿੰਗ ਤੋਂ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਫਿਨਿਸ਼ਿੰਗ ਤੱਕ, ਡ੍ਰੇਪਰੀ, ਪੇਂਟਿੰਗਸ ਤੋਂ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਡੈਕੋਰੇਸ਼ਨ ਐਕਸੈਸਰੀਜ਼ ਤੱਕ, ਤੁਸੀਂ SK ਹੋਮ ਡਿਜ਼ਾਈਨਸ ਦੀਆਂ ਪ੍ਰੋਫੈਸ਼ਨਲ ਸਰਵਿਸਿਜ਼ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਸੁਪਨਿਆਂ ਦੇ ਘਰ ਨੂੰ ਹਕੀਕਤ 'ਚ ਬਦਲ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ। ਕੰਟੈਕਟ ਕਰੋ ਸੰਦੀਪ ਕੌਰ 6048259295।
ਜੇ ਕਿਸੇ ਬਿਜ਼ਨਸਮੈਨ ਨੂੰ ਕੋਈ ਪਿਆਰ ਕਰਦਾ ਹੈ ਤਾਂ ਕੀ ਵਜ੍ਹਾ ਹੋ ਸਕਦੀ ਹੈ? ਸੁਖੀ ਬਾਟ ਮੋਟਰਸ ਦੇ ਓਨਰ ਸੁਖੀ ਬਾਟ ਨੂੰ ਵੇਖ ਕੇ ਇਹ ਗੱਲ ਸਮਝ ਆ ਜਾਂਦੀ ਹੈ। ਇੰਟੈਲੀਜੈਂਸ ਦਾ ਉਦਾਹਰਨ ਇਹ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਕਾਰ ਸੈਗਮੈਂਟ ਤੋਂ ਵੱਖ ਸੁਖੀ ਬਾਟ ਮੋਟਰਸ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਆਏ ਨੇ ਸਰੀ ਦਾ ਪਹਿਲਾ ਟਰੱਕ ਸੈਂਟਰ, ਜਿੱਥੇ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਲੋੜ ਦੇ ਹਿਸਾਬ ਨਾਲ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਲੋੜੀਂਦੇ ਟਰੱਕਸ ਬਾਰੇ ਗਾਈਡੈਂਸ ਦਿੱਤੀ ਜਾਂਦੀ ਹੈ। ਸਪੇਸ, ਮੋਡੀਫਿਕੇਸ਼ਨ ਤੇ ਫਿਊਲ ਐਫੀਸ਼ੀਐਂਸੀ ਸਭ ਨੂੰ ਧਿਆਨ ਵਿੱਚ ਰੱਖਿਆ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਹੈ। ਸੁਖੀ ਬਾਟ ਟਰੱਕ ਸੈਂਟਰ, ਇਹਨਾਂ ਟਰੱਕਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਹੀ ਹੈ ਟੌਰ।
ਵੈਨਕਾਸਾ ਟਾਈਲ ਅਤੇ ਸਟੋਨ ਸ਼ੋਰੂਮ ਇੱਕ ਐਸੀ ਥਾਂ ਹੈ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਹੋਲਸੇਲ ਕੀਮਤਾਂ ਤੇ ਹਰ ਕਿਸਮ ਦੀਆਂ ਟਾਈਲਸ, ਸਟੋਨ, ਮਾਰਬਲ, ਬੈਕਸਪਲੈਸ਼, ਮੋਜ਼ੇਕ ਆਦਿ ਵਾਜਬ ਕੀਮਤਾਂ ਤੇ ਮਿਲ ਸਕਦਾ ਹੈ। ਇਟਾਲੀਅਨ, ਸਪੈਨਿਸ਼, ਚਾਈਨੀਜ਼, ਪੋਰਸਲਨ ਜਾਂ ਸਿਰੈਮਿਕ ਟਾਈਲਸ ਜਾਂ ਮਾਰਬਲ ਸਪੈਸ਼ਲ ਆਰਡਰ ਤੇ ਜਾਂ ਕਲੀਅਰੈਂਸ ਤੇ ਲੈ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ। ਮਾਲਕ ਡਾਇਰੈਕਟ ਟਾਈਲਸ ਇੰਪੋਰਟ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਨ, ਜਿਸ ਕਰਕੇ ਵਧੀਆ ਕੁਆਲਿਟੀ ਦਾ ਸਮਾਨ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਘਰ ਦਾ ਸ਼ਿੰਗਾਰ ਬਣਾ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ। ਅੱਜ ਹੀ ਵਿਜ਼ਿਟ ਕਰੋ 1304 84 ਐਵਨਿਊ, ਸਰੀ। ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਹਿੰਦੀ ਵਿੱਚ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਨ ਲਈ ਕਾਲ ਕਰੋ 604 330 7363 604 330 7363।